Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Peter, and in this series of articles on rules, this one's a little bit unusual in that there's nothing in it to do with coaching, there's nothing in it directly to do with rules. This one is about timekeeping. This article belongs in about week 3 before we start attending swim meets. Now, with 3 timekeepers on each lane and no finish judges, who determines the placings and the official times? Well, the answer is that you do, the people who do the timekeeping. And it all depends on when the switch contact is made inside the watch as you press the button. Nothing else. Some might not realise that. I've seen at least one person who seemed to think that you just press the button to let the system know that the swimmer has finished their race, and somehow the system works out what the time was for itself. Well, not so. It's all down to you. Now, here is what to do. You watch the swimmer until they're about 5 metres out from the wall. That is where the backstroke flags are. And then you look down the wall and wait to see something touch the wall. Stop the watch when any part of the swimmer's body touches the wall. Do not anticipate, because the swimmer can miss the wall and have to take another stroke. Do not be concerned whether the touch was within the rules. That's what the technical officials are there for. Now, why do you look down the wall? It's because if you're watching the swimmer and they're doing an alternate arm stroke, whether they're doing crawl stroke, more commonly called freestyle, or whether they're doing backstroke, you won't know which arm is going to hit the wall. If you're watching them, your vision will be switching from side to side, and that's going to get confusing. Now, it may be instinctive to watch the swimmer all the way into the wall, but that's one of the ways to register an inaccurate time. So, we're getting some very variable results because different people have their own ways of doing this. Some will watch the swimmer all the way into the wall. Others will be standing there doing what I said and looking down the wall and waiting for something to hit. Others will be standing back because they don't like feeling crowded and they don't like getting their feet wet. And they go, oh, about now. So we can get some widely varying results. So, yes, looking down the wall means that we're all standing shoulder to shoulder and getting our shoes wet. It's not fun, but I don't know how you can avoid it. So, you can wear your flip-flops or bare feet, are quite okay. Just remember, though, that the concrete can be hot. You may have to walk to the middle of the pool for a 25-metre race or walk to the other end in some cases. Now, that's something else to remember too. If you're at the 25-metre finish in a 50-metre pool, there'll be a rope there. The swimmers do not have to touch the rope. Just stop the watch as though they would have touched an imaginary wall there. Why all this? Let's turn the clock back to get a run-up. There was a time when the standard setup was 2 timekeepers on each lane plus 3 finish judges. The judges determine the placings and the times are adjusted to match if necessary. Some places still do this and it works fine. But these days hardly anyone does accreditations, and finding 3 proficient judges is much more difficult than getting 1 extra timekeeper per lane, which is the alternative option. Judging requires particular aptitudes that not everyone has, and there's now another problem. Pools used to be 6 lanes across. Then we went to 8, and now some have 10. Try being a finish judge for that. The first few will come in somewhere in the middle of the pool. You don't have to move your eyes very far. But then they start to straddle from side to side, and so you're going here, there, somewhere else, and you get lost. Now everyone knows how to use a stopwatch, don't they? Or do they? Not so, according to the semi-automatic electronic timing that we now have in some places. Here is the difficulty with having timekeepers with stopwatches determining the placings and times. Average human reaction time is estimated at about 0.2 of a second. That is 2/10 or 20 hundredths. That is how long it takes from when you see the touch to when the contact is made inside the watch after you press the button. Now, there can be a very wide spread between individuals just inherently, even before we start talking about the differences in style mentioned earlier. But what's the effect on the results? Well, a sprinter's head would be moving forward at about 0.4 of a metre in that 0.2 of a second. That's about 2 handspans, that far. That's their head. Now, if they're doing backstroke or crawl stroke, that leading arm would be moving forward at twice that speed, so about 0.8 of a metre. 2, 4, 6, 8. That far. Now in tight finishes, 2 or 3 swimmers can finish inside that space. Timekeepers have difficulty resolving that difference. Judges could, if we still use them. Judges can easily differentiate between finishes that are only a hand difference apart. But they're gone. Touchpads could almost eliminate the difficulty, but first we'd need a money tree, and then we need a team with the time and expertise to deploy them. And backup manual timekeeping is still required. Now, how we're finding out about all this is that the automatic electronic timing that we're using rejects times from the same lane that are more than 0.3 of a second apart. Remember that your reaction time is 0.2, so it's only a bit more than that. And another thing, never use one of these to time another lane. Each handset is dedicated to a lane, so the computer would think there's been a finish in that lane. Only ever press the button on one of these things at the finish. Pressing any buttons at any other time. These dolphin stopwatches. You'll find that there are 3 buttons on these. There's a reset button, which you should never have to touch. If you're given that and it's running, just leave it. The reset button is used to power the device on or off. It's used to reset it back to 0, and it also allows access to a settings menu. You should never need to touch that. People who just know that they know will tell you that you can press that if you know you don't have a swimmer in your lane. Just ignore that. It can all go wrong. The reset process is usually governed by the start unit. When the starter presses reset on the start unit, that will reset all the stopwatches on all the lanes. So you don't have to do anything. It's better you don't do anything. Likewise, you do not have to do anything to set the stopwatch running at the beginning of a race. The start unit transmits a signal wirelessly to set all the stopwatches running on all the lanes when the start is issued. These 2 buttons down here, they're both the same. That means that you can use the device in either hand. You can press the buttons with either your index finger or your thumb. They're all the same. Just press one of those whenever any part of a swimmer's body touches the wall at the finish. And that's all you have to do. I meant to mention, if you happen to bump one of these stop buttons while a race is in progress and your timer stops running, just press one or other of them again and it will resume counting. Now inside these things, and timekeepers shouldn't have to worry about this, there is a 9-volt battery. Oh, terrible. A 9-volt battery to power the unit. And it has a connector on the top. And from time to time these batteries need replacing. And it does require taking a little bit of care. There's a lead, an electrical lead, which takes power inside the unit. Never ever wrench that to take the connector off the battery. Most people now know to either get their fingers around it, or what I would prefer to do, I carry this with me, a comb, and the handle on this particular comb is just right for getting underneath one of these. It's just the right size and shape, and it's made of insulating material so it won't short circuit the battery terminals. When it's all put back together, there's not much space. Push as much of the lead as you can up inside the unit, and you might have to give the battery a twist to get it to curl the rest of the lead around the top. Never lay the lead back over the battery, because when you put the panel back on, it'll usually crack the panel. It's not meant to go there. There's not enough space. These things, I should have mentioned, can be used in standalone mode. You can use these by themselves. You can start, stop and reset those like an ordinary stopwatch, but as a timekeeper, you probably never will. Never ever use one of these to time another lane, because they're dedicated. You'll see up here somewhere on the display that they're dedicated to the lane you are on. If you press one of these buttons to time another swimmer, it'll look like you've had a touch in your lane, and that'll scramble the recording system. Well, wrenching this lead will very likely tear the connectors, or their soldered connectors there, out of the connectors, out of the battery connectors. Because of the insulating cover, you won't see what has happened, and this is probably the most likely cause of apparent failures. The thing will behave erratically and eventually will fail. And now what happens is the operators, because this is all they can do, they'll resort to mashing these buttons harder, because of course that's what you do. If something doesn't work, you try harder, and eventually it'll damage that button. So then you've got two problems. If this happens, let me take a look at it. This is the sort of thing I used to do in a working lifetime, repairing damage to electrical leads. I and my trusty soldering iron can fix that. And these switches here too, if they've been damaged, why would you throw out a $500 Dolphin stopwatch for want of a $20 switch? Now we come to these manual or backup stopwatches, and I'm going to get a run up. Some of this is going to be a bit repetitive because I'm updating this in 2026. Time was when we had these mechanical stopwatches, and it had one button on the top which went start, stop, reset. This one's broken, it doesn't run anymore. So you couldn't get lost. Start, stop, reset. Well, these digital stopwatches we have now, where are we? They've got one extra button. They've got this button C they call this button A, button B, button C. And C will scroll around between these three functions: stopwatch, date and time, and alarm. You as a timekeeper will only ever want it on stopwatch mode. But if you inadvertently press that C button, this one here, or some 12-year-old's been playing with it, it could be on one of these other functions. Stopwatch mode, I explain here on this diagram where it's physically located, and over here where there's a big flow diagram. Okay, coming back here. Stopwatch, date, time, alarm. So, stopwatch mode, there's one here, is what's depicted here. You only ever use button A and button B. Button A is used for starting and stopping. Button B for reset. So, as a timekeeper, and you have to do all this yourself. The Dolphin system will do the resetting and starting for you, and all you have to do is stop. These manual stopwatches, the backup stopwatches, you've got to do all three: start, stop, and reset. Start, stop, reset. So that's it in sort of what it looks physically on your watch. Over here is a flow diagram. Not everyone can relate to a flow diagram, but it is required to explain to you how things can go wrong. Let me see, I'll put this down again. Stopwatch mode. Look, these things can do other things other than just time, erase, stop, start, reset. I've put those in red here. Normally you will start your stopwatch. It's on. It's reading 0. It's in reset. The race starts. You press button A to start your timer. You stop it using button A whenever any part of the swimmer's body touches the wall, and then you will reset it using button B, and you go around and you're back here again. So you'll go start, stop, reset. The same as we had over here. This is what it looks like on your stopwatch. Start using button A, stop using button A, reset using button B. Now, these things can do other functions. I realised belatedly that this run function here is central to everything. It really should be further down in the centre. I realised after I did this diagram that I could cancel a number of things and shorten the lines. Something I should have done was put this run function further down there in the middle, and that would have simplified it again, but I don't have it in me to draw all this again. Basically, as I explained before, you'll go A, you're on reset, you go A start, A stop, B reset. Now the trick is that when you're running and you press button A, it actually goes into time out mode. And this is what, for example, basketball officials will use. They'll put the timer in time out mode, and then what you do then is you press button A again and it will resume counting. You're back in running again. So you stop with A, wait for your time out, press button A again, and it's running again. If you're the timing official for a basketball game, you'll probably do that. You go A, 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 A. At the end of the game, you stop it with button A, press button B, and you're back to 0 again. You can start another game. These things will do one other thing. If you are in run mode and you press button B, that will display the lap or split time, depending on how it's been programmed, and it continues counting in the background. Once you've observed or written down what you've got off the display here, you press button B again and it'll go back into run mode. Same as, I'll come back to this. So if you're a coach, you might do this. You'll press button B, get your lap time, press button B to get it to resume, to update, because it's been running in the background, update, and back to run. A coach will be going around here. Right? Now, this is where you as a timekeeper can get lost. If you've started your watch using button A and inadvertently hit button B, you'll be over here. And you will be thinking that button B is what you use to reset it. And so you've gone run, and then you've inadvertently hit button B. If you do that, copy the time down, restart it using button B, and then the trouble is, if you think, I'll reset it, and you press button B, and you go, oh, yeah, it stopped. Now, reset. No, I want you to reset. Reset. Oh, look, this one's broken. And someone will come over and go, yeah, it's not working. Oh, they're not made to last. Throw it out. We'll authorise purchase of a new set of stopwatches at the next management committee meeting. There was never anything wrong. It's just that once you've got the thing, I've reset that. Once you've got the thing running again, you are here, and if you want to reset it, what you've got to do is stop it using button A. The same as you would at the end of a race. And then button B will reset it. Do you see what you do? If you've inadvertently hit button B, get it running again using button B, you're back here, stop it using button A, and then B will reset. You can see that whichever side of this you are on, if you're over here and you're timing a race, if you are officiating at a basketball game, you'll stop it with button A, it'll go into timeout. As a swimming timekeeper, you usually reset at that stage, but if you're a basketball official, you'll start it again with button A and it'll resume. If you're a swim coach, you might go over here, press button B, you're running, you press button B, copy down your lap time, start it again with B and go around this way. You can see that these two tracks here join up and they both go back up to run mode. Those are identical. From there, again, you've got the option of pressing button A to stop or pressing button B to get your lap or split. So that's the trick. That's what I suspect has been happening. Timekeepers have hit button B at the wrong time. They've tried to reset it using button B, and all that's done is set it running again, and they've thought the thing's malfunctioning, and you throw it out. Now, if that happens and there's no one around who can fix that for you, put her on a bench in the corner in the recording room and let me have a look at it. There's a very good chance I can get that back to normal. Now, down here, I left a whole lot of space for human factors, and that's where I get fuzzy. You see, what I'm saying is there's rarely any problem with the equipment. The problem is with the way it's being used, and that the people who are volunteering to do timekeeping don't know enough about how they work. Now, in practical terms, as I've written here, always start your backup stopwatch on the flash of the beacon on the start unit. Always start your watch. Afterwards is too late. You might have this hanging around your neck and you might think, oh, well, you know, the word will go out that there's been a breakdown in the system and we have to use our backup stopwatches. That's too late. If we get a question that says, we're missing a time on a particular lane, what did the backup stopwatch get? And it's still hanging around your neck and you never started it, that's no use to us. So always start your stopwatch. Start it on the flash of the beacon on the start unit. And the reason for that is if you're up the other end of the pool, 50 metres away, the sound of the beeper will take 0.2 of a second to get down the other end of the pool, and that's the error that'll be in your time if you start it on the beep. Always start it on the flash. The referee's whistle should alert you that you should have your stopwatch in your hand ready to start it. So I mentioned before about if you get lost over here, if you don't know what to do about getting that fixed, find someone else who can. Very rarely does this equipment ever have problems. One is if you find that these are beginning to behave erratically, it usually means that the battery is running down and needs changing. That's about the only thing that usually happens with them. Let me see. So the problem is that I've been seeing from the sidelines is that too many people think that you get what you pay for, and up to a point that can be true, but basically the simplest stopwatch that can do what you want is about all you need. Now, thinking that you get what you pay for, I can see that this lot have gone and bought top of the line coaches stopwatches again, and that's just going to add more complexity to where you can get lost over here. You've got a great deal more potential for getting lost on a coach's stopwatch. And I heard when this happened before, the comment was, oh, those didn't work. Too many people were getting lost in amongst the coach's functions of a coach's stopwatch. So you just need the simplest one that's reliable and will do the job for you. I left a big space down here, and you can see what I'm driving at. The physical equipment rarely is the cause of any trouble. What we have is a whole lot of trouble with volunteers who don't really know what to do. And I don't know what to do about that. So this big space down here was where for all the human factors, and I get very fuzzy about that. We don't have an equipment problem, we have a human problem. We need to train our officials what to do and what not to do. Wait until after the start. Now, timekeepers are officials too, and so impartiality is essential. If you want to use your own stopwatch to time a swimmer, do that from the sideline, not while you are actually doing timekeeping as an official. During the race and while you're taking times, concentrate only on the swimmer in your lane. These stopwatches that you can buy now usually have multiple functions on them. Keep it in stopwatch mode. There's usually a third button. You should never have to touch that. If you inadvertently hit that, you might put it into date and time mode or alarm mode. So leave the middle button alone. Button A here is for starting and stopping. Button B is reset. But it can also do something else. These sorts of timepieces are also used for games like basketball, for example, where they use a timeout function. So I'll just say that again. If you have stopped your watch by pressing the reset button, copy down the time, press reset again, that'll set it running again, stop it normally, and then you can reset. Now, I can't resist the opportunity to do some ranting, but first let me remind you what to do. If you remember just one thing, this is what to do. You can watch the swimmer up until they're about 5 metres out from the wall. As they go under the backstroke flags, look down the wall and wait to see something touch the wall. Hit that stop button the moment you see something touch the wall. If you remember nothing else, remember to do that. Now, these things are not toys. Do not let the kids play with them. If you want your child to play with a stopwatch, you buy them one. In particular, the handsets for the electronic timing are very expensive. Now, when you are timekeeping, this lanyard has a purpose. That's to keep you connected to the clock and the clock connected to you, so it doesn't end up on the concrete. You can hang it around your neck. That way you can have both hands free most of the time. That'll keep it safe. You can wrap it around your wrist. That'll keep it safe. The lanyard is not for swinging it around by when you get a bit bored, because the number of times I've seen these go astray and end up on the concrete. I should know, because I used to change the batteries in these, and I would spend as much time repairing switches as I did replacing batteries, because you let one of these go, it's very likely to land on a switch. So keep it safe, keep it around your neck, around your wrist. Now, I keep saying I like to get a run-up, so this is what we used to have long ago, mechanical watches, before we got the digital ones. Mechanical watches, they had one button at the top: start, stop, reset. And we were trained to actuate that using our index finger. Start, stop, reset. This one's old, it doesn't work anymore. Think about why we were told to do that. What is your most sensitive and responsive finger? It's going to be the index finger on your dominant hand. The thumb that we have is really only meant for grasping the opposite side of something. It's the fingers that have all the dexterity. So, question: why, for right-handers, do these have the start-stop button under the thumb? I have to come up with a conspiracy theory. See, I reckon people watch too many movies. It's all for entertainment, it's all for drama. So I imagine probably something like this happened. In a movie, they're at the racetrack, the driver's going around the circuit, at the control point, they got a stopwatch, seeing what his lap time is. No one ever taught them to use their index finger. It's much more dramatic to have your thumb on it. Here he comes, is he going to make the time? They hit the stop button with their thumb. Unfortunately, populism has overtaken everything, and that's how the stop buttons on the digital watches have ended up under the thumb. If I want to use one of these, are right for left-handers, by the way. If I want to use one of these, I use it in the left hand. Start stop button under the index finger. Sometimes I'll turn it upside down so that I'm using my index finger on the stop. So turn it upside down so that I'm using my index finger on the start button on the right hand. But, you know, that's all a bit quirky. We're stuck with that, I'm afraid. You know, your timekeepers at the end of the pool are going to be doing this. I don't like it, but, you know, there we have it. The triumph of populism, the triumph of the ordinary, compulsory mediocrity, it's everywhere. I wish I had a better note to end on. Anyway, remember your advice. One good thing about this is the timekeepers get really excited when two of them get the same time to the nearest 100th. And I reckon that's great. So until the next one,